World Health Organization now says there's a possibility, a potential risk. Radiation from cell phones could cause cancer.
Turns out participants in the study who used a cell phone for 10 years or more had doubled the rate of brain glioma, a type of tumor. And keep in mind, cell phone use in the United States has only been popular for around 15 years.
After several minutes, that it really starts causing DNA problems. It even heats the brain.
What microwave radiation does, in the most simplistic term, is very similar to what happens to your food. When you put your food in a microwave oven, it's essentially cooking the brain.
If you've ever put a cell phone to your ear, you should listen to what neurosurgeon Dr. Keith Black has to say.
There's no way to say that cell phone use is safe. I think that the public has a right to know that there could be a potential risk. Environmental factors take decades to see their effect, not a few years.
So if it may take decades to get a clearer answer, what can we say about cell phone safety now?
All right, now tonight's top story, your lifeline to the world is being linked to cancer.
This is the story that we have been talking about all day. Should we really be concerned about using our cell phones? Stephanie, what do you have to say?
Well, Cherie, Jack, we've all wondered if our cell phones are passing radiation through our bodies. And tonight, the doctors we talked to confirm there's enough evidence.
This is well recognized now as a possible risk to cancer. So the most vulnerable age group are going to be children, and more and more kids are using these cell phones.
Tu showed us his computer model, which shows us how much radio frequency children can absorb. It's enough for Tu to realize consumers should be alerted and aware.
In children, their skull is thinner, their scalp is thinner, so the microwave radiation can penetrate deeper into the brain of children and young adults. And their cells are dividing at a much faster rate, so the impact of the microwave radiation can be much larger.
And here's something else that might surprise you. The cell manufacturers themselves actually advise against putting the cell phone right next to your head or really anywhere in your body. Dr. Keith Black has been talking about this longer than many, but the voices joining him are becoming louder and more prominent. The city of San Francisco pushed for radiation warning labels on cell phones. The head of a prominent cancer research institute sent a memo to all employees urging them to limit cell phone use because of possible risk of cancer. And the European Environmental Agency has pushed for more studies, saying cell phones could be as big a public health risk as smoking, asbestos, and leaded gasoline.
More than 2/3 of Americans have cell phones, but there's long been a question: does heavy cell phone use hurt human health? Lindsay Davis reports on a major new study which for the first time shows cell phones do seem to have some mysterious effect on the brain.
Some are calling the study a landmark event in our understanding of how cell phones affect the human body. 47 participants had cell phones placed on their left and right ears. One cell phone was activated but muted, the other was turned off. After 50 minutes, the researchers took PET scans of the subjects. Look at what they found. The image on the left shows what happened when the cell phone was turned on. The most active areas are in red. Notice the upper right part of the brain. That's the area closest to the antenna. Compare that with this image on the right of the same subject when they had their cell phones turned off.
A committee composed of scientists from 14 different countries working for the World Health Organization concluded that exposure to cell phone radiation is a possible carcinogen because what the cell phones do is emit a radio frequency magnetic field which interacts with your own biological signaling system to cause this increase. And this expert World Health Scientific Committee found that there was a 40% increased risk of cancer.
It's interesting because you look at all the studies out there and most people will say, look, I mean, they're fine. A lot of scientists will say that. But, you know, I've read all these studies, Larry. I mean, I've spent the last year sort of really reading this, and there's 16 really good studies out there, a few since 2000. Most of them, if you really dissect it down, they really only follow the patients along for just a few years. And, you know, people use their cell phones for years and years, and kids start using them. They're going to use them their whole lifetime. Also, some of the studies say regular cell phone use is using it one time a week for 6 months. I mean, who uses a cell phone that little nowadays? So my point is this, that, you know, if you read the studies alone, they'll say they're safe. But if you start to say, well, look, wait a second, how about if it's 10 years? How about it's 20, 30, 40 years?
We don't know yet.
We don't know. And if you use your phone all the time, like people in the news business, they have a cell phone to the ear all the time. Is that really safe?
It's gonna work. No, can you believe? Come on.
What?
A little faith here.
Oh, yeah.
You're so pessimistic. That's a nice phone he's got. What's the nice one you got there? Alright, put those in there.
It's not gonna work. I'm
It's
telling you,
gonna
it's not gonna
work.
work.
Good. Just put these things in here a little bit closer, I think, and work a little better. Alright?
Whatever.
Call it up. Okay.
Okay, I'm calling.
You ready?
I'm
I
calling.
bet you $10 it works.
Yeah, $20, it's not working.
Make it 50.
Ah.
A grant, it works.
No,
we
wait.
on?
No, 20.
20. Okay, 20.
It's not working.
It's gonna work. Give it a
No.
second. Here it goes. Come on. Oh, no! That's crazy.
Oh, that's too much.
I told you.
No way,
man!
Voilà, comme ça. Exact. Il est où le copain? Il est en chaîne.
Vas-y. Moitié partout. Go.
Je suis bon.
Bon, ça le fait! Oh, j'adore!
Voilà. Non, on bouffe pas ça. Arrête, non, on bouffe pas. Mais non, tu bouffes pas ça.
Alright, I'm on my way.
If you've ever put a cell phone to your ear, you should listen to what neurosurgeon Dr. Keith Black has to say.
There's no way to say that cell phone use is safe. I think that the public has a right to know that there could be a potential risk. The public generally assumes that if one is selling something on the market, that we have had assurances that that device is safe.
To be clear, Dr. Black's message is at odds with headlines from the largest international study on cell phones and cancer. Their conclusion, little or no evidence cell phones are associated with brain tumors. But if you look just one layer deeper into the appendix of that same study, and you'll see something unsettling. Turns out participants in the study who used a cell phone for 10 years or more had doubled the rate of brain glioma, a type of tumor. And keep in mind, cell phone use in the United States has only been popular for around 15 years. Back in 1996, there were 34 million cell phone users. Today, nearly 300 million in use, according to industry figures.
Environmental factors take decades to see their effect, not a few years.
So if it may take decades to get a clearer answer, what can we say about cell phone safety now? Scientists here in San Jose, California, are trying to answer that very question.
So one of the things we have to do first is literally put the brain inside the head.
Exactly. So it's very light now.
The FCC requires all cell phones emit below 1.6 watts per kilogram of radiation.
Let's put some brain to it.
In order to test for that, scientists here try and mimic the human brain with salt, sugar, and water.
Let me show you precisely how they do this test. This is a model. This is supposed to approximate the human skull, an adult male. This is my phone that we've actually attached there. It's connected at the angle that most people would speak with. And inside over here, very important, this bubbly liquid inside, that's what represents liquid brain. What's going to happen is the phone is making a call. After a period of time, this device is going to come over here and start to measure radiation at all sorts of different points in the brain. After that, they're going to take all of those numbers, basically put it on a computer screen, and tell us where the hot spots are and just how high the levels got.
My cell phone measured within FCC limits, but the whole process was, well, surprisingly low tech. And what about different size skulls? Or children?
In children, their skull is thinner, their scalp is thinner, so the microwave radiation can penetrate deeper into the brain of children and young adults. And their cells are dividing at a much faster rate, so the impact of the microwave radiation can be much larger.
But there have been no studies on children in cell phone safety.
And here's something else that might surprise you. The cell manufacturers themselves actually advise against putting the cell phone right next to your head or really anywhere in your body. Take a look, for example, with the iPhone 4. The safety instructions specifically say when using the iPhone near your body for voice calls, keep it at least 15 millimeters or 5/8 of an inch away from your body. And what if you're a BlackBerry user specifically? They also have safety guidelines. In this case, they say keep it 0.98 inches or 25 millimeters from your body, meaning your head or really even your pocket.
Dr. Keith Black has been talking about this longer than many, but the voices joining him are becoming louder and more prominent. The city of San Francisco pushed for radiation warning labels on cell phones. The head of a prominent cancer research institute sent a memo to all employees urging them to limit cell phone use because of possible risk of cancer. And the European Environmental Agency has pushed for more studies, saying cell phones could be as big a public health risk as smoking, asbestos, and leaded gasoline.
The Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, they set the guidelines for how much radiation a cell phone can emit, and they say cell phones are safe. But how can they be so sure? Keeping them honest, we decided to come here to try and find out for ourselves, but they declined an on-camera interview.
The type of radiation coming out of your cell phone is called non-ionizing. It's not like an X-ray, but more like a very low-powered microwave oven.
What microwave radiation does, in the most simplistic term, is very similar to what happens to your food when you put your food in a microwave oven. It's essentially cooking the brain.
But based on their past statements, the FCC isn't convinced there's a real risk and maintain they, quote, do not endorse the need for consumers to take any precautions to reduce exposure. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, CNN, San Jose, California.
This is a result of a heart rate variability examination I did with me yesterday. This was the heart rate result before a mobile phone call. You see stress, stress, rigidity, stress, 4.5 stress bars. This was before the mobile phone. And then 8 minutes later, after 5 minutes of a mobile call, the result was this one. Exhaustion, only one stress column, and disorder. Exhaustion, chaos, disorder, and reduced function of the thyroid gland. So my type changed totally from a stress to a burnout by only 4 minutes mobile phone calling. And so you see how important and how effective in a negative way the mobile phone call at the ear is. And results like that we have many and many. It is really impressive and amazing. Okay.
What is the system? What is the test?
It is the time waver cardio, a system for the examination of the heart rate. That means the vegetative nervous system. The autonomous nerves sympathicus makes stress. The opposite, the parasympathicus, makes relaxation. And a good result should be just in the middle. But I had an abnormal result before, a strong stress, and after the mobile call a strong burnout. And this is not how it should be, of course.
Okay, thank you.